like the committee makes all those decisions, so we can look at whatever we want. It's like fans. Sometimes fans will come up to me before a game broadcast if I'm in the arena, and they'll go, "Should I be nervous?" I go, "You can be whatever you want. You can be nervous. You can be drunk. You can be asleep. How you feel has no bearing on the outcome of the game. And what we look at and what we're considering has no outcome on what the committee's going to do."
Okay, and welcome in to another duly noted podcast, presented as always by Titan MRI and Imaging, and coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. We got a lot to talk about today. Jay Bilas is going to join us. Can't wait for that. We'll just talk about how great the SEC is for the most part. Now we'll talk about college basketball as a whole. And I mentioned that Matt McCall next Thursday. Of course, Coach Spurrier on Monday. I actually had to turn down golf with Coach Spurrier today because of the podcast, but I never like doing that because you never know if he's going to invite you back. Anyway, and then the following Thursday, I've already set this up. Pat Bradley, the shooter, is going to be on. I can't wait to talk to him. I've never spoken to the guy except for on emails, just texting him and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to having him on. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. I will say this. People have been asking me over and over again about the Bob Dooley Invitational. When is it going to be? We're still going to do it, blah, blah, blah. We're still on hold right now. We're looking at some options, several options. We've talked to people. We've been out to Ironwood several times, which is where we'd ideally like to have it. Not sure where they are right now. I mean, the bar has been closed for 2.5 months, so I'm waiting for that's rough on me, you know that. So I'm waiting for that to get resolved. But we're looking at a couple places. But just know that we are trying to make sure that my dad's name stays relevant. That's the biggest thing that gets me going are the kids that we can help with Stop Children's Cancer. The second biggest thing, though, is that keep my dad's name out there. Because once you quit talking about somebody, this is something I learned a long time ago. Once you quit talking about somebody, they kind of evaporate. And so I don't want that to ever happen. I don't know that my dad could ever evaporate from my memory, but anyway, that's enough of that. All right, let's get to our Royal Blues starting five, which is brought to you by our good friend Randy Royal at Royal Blue. Does a great job over there in Palatka, setting you up with great boats. Let's start with number one. And here's what I wrote down. So I'm like, what is the number one thing? And I just wrote this down. I said, this team, man, this team is freaking me out. Like there are games where I'm like going, what is going on here? I obviously Tuesday night spoke to the quarterback club. I will say, by the way, Russ Callaway was tremendous. He reminded me so much of Kirby Smart. Just the same accent, he's from Macon, I think, too. And the attention, and he was going through everything that they do, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I learned a lot of football. And now I know the plays that Florida calls, although I can't remember any of them. Blue Slide Lonnie. Anyway, so I got home, but I watched the end of the game. I listened to some of the game, obviously coming in. Sean Kelly was doing a great job of keeping me informed about what was going on. But in the middle of my talk, I made this comment. And here is the way I was presenting myself Tuesday night. That go back to October where you were as a fan and as a fan base. You weren't in a good place. Your football team was off to a terrible start. We know that. And Billy Napier talked about it this week, talked about how maybe he thought he didn't do well in the portal. He got the wrong guys in at one point. And your basketball coach was under investigation for a Title IX situation. They weren't in the top 20. They weren't ranked in the top 20. They were 21, but they weren't ranked in the top 20. Gator fans, you weren't in a good place, and now you really are. Football team finished good, had unbelievable recruiting finish. You feel like the roster is the best it's been in years. And your basketball team's ranked third in the country. But in the middle, but I also said, what could happen? They're down 8-5 and you're going to complain, and somebody yelled out, they're actually up 17-10. And then somebody else yelled out, Condon got hurt, he's out for the year. I'm like, now I just almost froze on stage. Like I didn't know what to say at that point. Turns out Condon is not out for the year. I can understand how somebody was, people were thinking that he might be. And it's a sprained ankle, and he'll be back. But the fight and grit that team continues to show. I mean, Florida's never won 2 games against ranked teams on the road consecutively. Okay, and you can't put a game in between it at home and say, well, they have. No, 2 games in a row against ranked teams on the road. And like I told you guys, Mississippi State's a good team. And Florida just shot them out. And there gets to a point where you're sitting there and you're watching it. And I went back and watched the replay of it because we tape every Florida game. And I started laughing in the middle of it. I'm like, God, you got to be kidding. They made another shot. It's just amazing how well this team has fought through adversity. When you think about during this stretch, because we went into this 4-game stretch, Jeff and I were talking about it on the radio, and I said, man, 2-2, I'll take 2-2 right now. And I would have taken 2-2 and said, guys, don't play the games, rest up, let's take 2-2. Instead, they went 3-1. They went 3-1 without Walter Clayton for one of the games, without Elijah Martin for 2 of the games, and losing Condon in 30 seconds into this last game. And they're finding guys that they've got a deeper roster I think anybody thought. I don't think anybody realized how good Clavchar might be. I don't think anybody realized, like, Denzel Aberdeen to me is the story of this season. And look, you could say 10 guys are the story of the season. It's been a good year so far, but there's no doubt to me that Denzel Aberdeen is the story of the season because he came back even though he knew Florida was going to play 3 guards and he wasn't one of them. And he came back and kept doing all the work, and now has started 2 straight games and has been phenomenal in both of them. 20 points the other night. I mean, this team is really good. It's really good in the best league in the world, right? Because we'll talk to Jay about that in a little bit, but everybody's talking about the SEC being the best in the history of sports. We'll see when it comes tournament time, because that is how you're always judged. Okay, you're always judged by how you do in the tournament. If you have a bunch of first round exits, the SEC wasn't as good as we thought, and it doesn't mean they weren't. But that's the way the tournament is. Big win for Florida at Mississippi State, and let's get to number 2 on our Royal Plu starting 5, and that is, of course, Florida this week now plays South Carolina, which I watched last night. Kind of hoping they'd win so they wouldn't come here without a win, because I don't want, you always get nervous about a team that's desperate, and nobody's more desperate than South Carolina. They know they're not going to any tournaments except the SEC tournament, and so they're coming in here desperate. But there's a reason why they lose every game, or they've lost every game. It's because they get a lot of them right to the end. Don't forget what happened up in Columbia with the Gators. Florida was so lucky to win that game, so fortunate. Pulled it out. Same thing with Ole Miss last night. Pulled it out. And that was at home, right? I think it was in Ole Miss. No, it was in South Carolina. Yeah. So they're not as good on the road. Yeah. But it'll still be an important game. I will say this. It's funny to see some of these projections of NCAA tournament stuff like that. And the latest one from ESPN has Florida 100% in. Well, I figured they were in at 21-3, but again, there's still a lot of basketball to be played. But they're in unless a bunch of injuries happened and they lost every game. But 100% in, that means they can't be let out, right? But the SEC continues to get, and this was the cool thing I read in this story. They were talking about somebody, and I guess it was Mississippi State, being on the projections, and they were saying, yeah, they're lost to SEC powerhouse Florida. And I was like, whoa, SEC powerhouse. When's the last time somebody said that about Florida? Yeah, I think you have to go back to the Patrick Young's, Scotty Wilbekin team when somebody would have referred. And I don't even know if anybody referred to that team as a powerhouse. They won every SEC game they played that year, including the tournament, 21-0. But I don't think anybody called them a powerhouse. This is a powerhouse, apparently, but that's good to see. The interesting thing, watching the net, which I know I'm nuts about doing that, but Florida did go up a spot, but they went up a spot only because Tennessee lost to Kentucky. If Tennessee had beaten Kentucky, Florida would have stayed at 5. Now they move up to 4. And the interesting thing was Mississippi State did not move down one notch. Again, I go, and I'm going to ask Jay Bilas about this, but I go back to my quote: you develop your beachhead in the non-conference, and you play off of that. And that's what these SEC teams are doing. They've built up so much cachet in the non-conference that it's not surprising that everybody's just raving about them. Okay, let's get to number 3 on our Royal Blue starting 5, and that is that softball is off to a pretty good start, I'd say. 8-0. Not only are they 8-0, they've hit 18 homers and they've outscored their opponents 74-9. There's a long way to go. And look, they haven't really beaten Michigan's pretty good, and they ruled them. They've had run rules in 6 of their 8 games. They got a lot of power, a lot of bats. But again, when you get into the SEC play, it gets different. Of course, they're hosting the Bubbly Invitational all week, starting today and then going all through the weekend. It's going to be crowded over there at Gainesville, at that area in Gainesville. I can tell you that much. But what a start they're off to still. I don't care who you're playing. You still got to play, and you still got to go get the job done. So they're off to an amazing start. I know Duke is pretty good this coming here. They're ranked. They're one of the teams in the Bubbly. And then, then they go out to the West Coast. This is what they always do. Somebody was asking us the other day why they don't play in that invitational down in Clearwater. Well, this is not what they want to do. They do this every year. They play in a little tournament in South Florida. Michigan's always there. South Florida plays there. And then they come back, they host their own tournament, and then they go out to play a bunch of teams out in the West Coast, which is good for recruiting out there because, hey, your parents are going to get to see it, right? They've got their plan, and it's worked pretty well for Tim Walton. We appreciate him, man. Looking forward to get out there for a game. Let's get to number 4, and I'm really looking forward to Friday night going out to the baseball game. Take me out to the ball game on Valentine's Day. Now, this is where I've overachieved in marriage. This was my wife's suggestion that we do this. So my job was only to find tickets, and I did. Thanks to Joe Calorio, by the way, for being a good friend as always. But yeah, no, we want to go out, and we're gonna. I think we're gonna go to the basketball game too. The next night. Although it's a late game, we'll see how that goes. You never know with us. All right, so baseball. Coach O'Sullivan, or as Robbie calls him, O'Sully, they announced their starters, and not surprising, Liam Peterson, Jake Clemente, and Pierce Coppola. If you listen to Jeff on our radio show on the Tailgate, WRUF 4 to 6 every day, he said that's going to be the starting group way back, and it's got a chance to be good. You know, the interesting thing, I always wonder if that's going to be the starting 3 players on the last weekend of the year, because that means they stayed healthy and it means they were effective enough to stay in the lineup. It could be they get moved out for a while and then get moved back in, but if it's the same 3 guys at the end, it means Florida's had a pretty good year. I would hope. Look, they got a really good team again. They've hit the portal hard. Their left fielder's a portal player. Their center fielder's a portal player. And they've got some other guys. I think their closer may be a portal player. So they've done really well there. And it's I asked Coach O'Sully on the podcast the other, what was it, 3 weeks ago? We had him on 2 weeks ago, about that. And he just, I think he's really excited about this. I know it's his 18th season, but to him, I think he just feels like I'm starting all over with this group. Because anytime a guy like Jack Caglione leaves, it's tough to fill those shoes. That's why there's no number 14 on the team. But look, you don't have to fill his shoes. You could end up hitting more homers this year than you hit last year. But I will miss this moment that I always loved. I would be in here watching the game in my office, watching a Gator baseball game, and Cags would hit one a million miles. And I would walk out very casually, and my wife would be watching something else on TV, and I go, "Oh, look out there, Karen." What? I go, "There goes Cag's ball." And she got to a point where she didn't. I should just walk out there and she'd go, "Cags did it again." Okay. But anyway, that was a fun guy to cover. There's no doubt about that. Okay, let us get to number 5 on our Royal Blue starting 5. Yes, I am bringing Daytona into the mix. Daytona 500, the Super Bowl is the first race of the year, right? Which has always been weird to me, but hey, I've covered a bunch of them. I was lucky enough to get down there, and the year that George Bush was there, man, you talk about traffic. George Bush Jr. I don't know how the walkers or that all works, but anyway. So it's Sunday, and yesterday, yes, Chase Briscoe won the pole, his first pole at Daytona, and the first pole for a Toyota. Now, I don't think he was driving my Camry with the dents in it, although it looks like I've hit some walls in my car. But hey, that Camry's got a little pickup on it. I tell you, the Avalon really did, the one I had before that I totaled, but that's another story. All right, so hey, look, I appreciate people who love Daytona. This is an event that's not unlike anything else. It is so cool. Once you get there, it's cool. Once you get in, it's really cool. Getting there is the hard part, or the waiting is the hardest part. But anyway, look forward to that on Sunday. And believe me, that it's the only race I'll watch. I watch the Daytona 500, and then I kind of dismiss it for the rest of the year just because I get so caught up in everything else, basketball and of course softball and baseball and everything. So anyway, that is going to be this weekend. We'll talk about that more in the swamp. Games of the weekend. And I have so many games of the weekend that I had to limit it on how many I could sneak in there. But here's what I know. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, the great Jay Bilas will join us. Maybe he'll bring out his Billustrator. Okay? We'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break. At Royal Blue, we use such tools as AI, bulk email marketing, trade shows, Google search advertising, and multiple websites. We take a much more proactive approach to getting your boat sold in a timely manner. With our extensive client list and broker-dealer network, we can track down vessels that might be perfect for you and your family, that may not even be listed for sale yet, giving you the right of first refusal. We have spent the last 15 years in boat sales, observing and listening to our clients. In response to our findings, we have constructed a custom yacht brokerage that strives to fit their needs and not ours. Call us today to schedule a consultation to see what Royal Blue can do to solve all of your boating needs. Call Randy at 850-974-1294.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Spite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, this is another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, and it's a great pleasure to bring on the legend, and that is Jay Bilas, who, of course, is the voice, in my opinion, of college basketball and of student-athlete rights, too. So there's two things you can be the voice of. How about that, Jay?
Pretty good. Yeah, thank you. Good to be with you.
Let's talk about, obviously, the Florida game on Saturday. That was a gutsy performance, with the situation they were in. And then on Tuesday, they lose Condon 30 seconds in and still win the game on 2 straight wins against ranked teams. They've been an impressive team so far this year, haven't they?
All season long. Yeah, they've been terrific. And they've got everything. They're deep. They've got great guards. And their big guys are truly outstanding. It's kind of an old school front line. They're big and strong, the offensive rebound, but they're really skilled. Condon and Hugh can kind of rip and run and bring it up. Both are good passers, and they've got great hands. So yeah, there's really nothing that Florida doesn't have. It's just that there are other teams out there that that have almost as much, if not as much. So they're in a tough conference, and then it's going to always be difficult in the NCAA tournament because there are some other really good teams at the top of their leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when Florida lost to Missouri, we were always all going, "Yo, I can't believe they lost to Missouri," and now we're going, "Oh, now we get it." Missouri actually is better than we thought they were going to be. But I mean, that just says a lot about this conference.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just basketball because,
Yeah.
if football played 40 games, their winning percentage would be the same. They don't. And they play once a week. So they have a little bit more time to prepare for each game. But, really the separation is about the same in basketball and football and always has been. It's just a question of the amount of games that you play. And anytime you're playing on the road, in the middle of the week, then home, then couple road games and all that back to back. You're going to have a loss here or there. That's the way basketball goes.
I know you're going to be in Auburn in Alabama for Auburn, Alabama, and that's going to be that's must see TV. It's appointment TV in my opinion. But again, I'm into basketball. You got a feeling about that game, or are you just looking forward to just taking it all in?
The latter. I mean, look, both teams are outstanding, and both teams I think are worthy of the number one ranking, and both will be ranked number one before it's over. Auburn's ranked number one right now, but I think Alabama will take its turn there, and staying there is the difficult part in the SEC. But both teams are 10-1 in the league, and they're the two best offensive teams in the league. I think Alabama is going to be a challenge at home because, anytime you play at home, you get a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
But people think of them as a 3-point shooting team, and they make threes. Certainly, they make 10 a game. Both of them do. But if you want to beat Alabama, you better protect the paint because that's what they do. They're a slot driving team, so they drive it into the paint. They force help, and then they play out of it really well. So you're going to see a lot of help defense, and you're going to have to be really good offensively. I think Auburn is going to have to be really good on offense so they don't give up transition opportunities. Your offense has to help your defense in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer that you establish your beachhead during the non-conference season, and then you play off of that. And that's what the SEC did so effectively, and that's why all these teams their net ranking and their KenPoms are so high. But once you get that beachhead, you're not going to move a whole lot unless you have a disaster. In fact, Mississippi State losing to Florida didn't move at all in any of the rankings. So do you buy into my theory there?
Well, yeah, but you can't establish a beachhead unless you're good.
Yeah, that's right.
So everybody's got to be really good, and that rarely happens in a conference, and especially conferences of this size. I've been telling people, people are saying, okay, the SEC, there hasn't been a conference that has been this accomplished since the ACC in the mid '80s. That's when I played in the ACC. And one of the factors that people aren't really, in my opinion, aren't really taking into account is the ACC was 8 teams back then. It's a lot easier to have 8 good teams than it is to have 16.
Right.
And so you look at the bottom of the standings in the Southeastern Conference, and South Carolina's down at the bottom. They played really well and almost beat Ole Miss last night at home, but they've lost every game. But they in the non-conference they were 10-2 or 11-2, and beat Clemson. Yeah, they beat Clemson. Clemson's the second best team in the ACC behind Duke. So you put South Carolina in a number of these other leagues, they're in the top half of the league, and they're probably in the NCAA tournament, but they're not going to make it this year absent doing something extraordinary in the SEC tournament in Nashville. And that happens. I mean, they're not going to take every team from a conference just because you played really well in the non-conference. You got to win games too.
It's not like the softball. Like they take 13 or 14 teams, just because they had a losing record, but they were playing the SEC. I did want to ask you too about all the NIL stuff and portal stuff, and I thought that Indiana was a good job. I mean, a good example of how the portal doesn't always work, and it's not always the answer. And of course, Mike Woods is stepping down. Had the number, I think, 4 or 5 ranked portal class. I think he had the number 1 player, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Guys don't mesh.
Well, first of all, nothing always works. So when people say you can't win with freshmen, not true. It's happened before. Kentucky did it. Duke did it. It happened in the '90s when Michigan went to the championship game with a starting all freshmen. You can win with freshmen. Not everybody does it. It's hard to do, but a lot of the ultra experienced teams lose in the first round too. It doesn't. Half the teams that play in the first round lose. And so there's no one formula. So, people say, well, it's transactional now. Well, it's always been transactional. You've always had to sign on the bottom line in order to play. Players have had to sign national letters of intent that bind them to their school. They were bound before. It's always been transactional. Can't have relationships now. Not true. Kentucky and Louisville have brand new teams out of the portal. Right. And both are ranked, and both are going to play in the NCAA tournament. And both are playing really, really well. So these pronouncements that it has to be one way or the other, it's not binary. There are a lot of ways to win and do it right. You got to be an older team. Got to do this. Got to do that. Everybody's got their theory. Nothing works every time or all the time. So the teams that do the best job with what they have are going to win. And right now, the facile interpretation is the teams that spend the most money win the most. Not true. Look, you can spend money and lose, and you can spend less and win. It's always been about efficiency and doing the best with what you have.
Let me ask you about, and we're talking to Jay Bilas, of course, from ESPN on our Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line, and I want to ask you about Player of the Year, and which appears to be a two-man race between Cooper Flagg and Janae Broom. Broom is really good, but Cooper Flagg is I don't know, is he generational? I don't even know what the term generational means anymore. How can you have 9 guys that are generational players, but in one generation? But what's your take on that right now, or do you think it comes down to how they play late in the year?
Yeah, I think it comes down to how they play from here on out. I think it's those two. And it's kind of shaping up like whatever it was 2006 when it was Adam Morrison and J.J. Redick that kind of separated. And the fact that they're from the top 3 teams in the country, 2 or 3 teams in the country, or at least top 5. I don't know where they're ranked right now. The rankings don't really move me. But, it's going to be down to those two. And Braden Smith of Purdue is having a great year. And in other years, I think he'd be considered a Player of the Year favorite. Cam Jones and Marquette, things like that. But I think those two have separated. I mean, both of them are leading their teams in scoring, rebounding, and assists, and also blocks. That's pretty rare. And you got 2 guys doing that in the same season at big time winning schools and teams that are doing extraordinarily well this year. So it's going to be like Player of the Year is a fun debate to have. Yeah. But we don't have to vote right now, so we can treat this like the Heisman Trophy or something. But I love the Heisman Trophy thing, but to me it's boring every year because it's only going to be quarterbacks.
Oh, I know.
They're not including anybody else, so it's basically a position thing. And so I think the basketball thing is really interesting, and we'll see what happens. But it's not. I'm more interested in who's gonna win and how they're playing rather than individual awards. That shakes out later.
Yeah, absolutely. I had my co-host on radio call me a basketball nerd the other day because I look at the net as soon as it comes out and I start following it. So when is it too early to look at the net rankings?
Never. You can look at whatever you want.
Exactly.
We don't have any say. Like the committee makes all those decisions, so we can look at whatever we want. It's like fans. Sometimes fans will come up to me before a game broadcast if I'm in the arena, and they'll go, "Should I be nervous?" I go, "You can be whatever you want. You can be nervous. You can be drunk. You can be asleep. How you feel has no bearing on the outcome of the game." And what we look at and what we're considering has no outcome on what the committee is going to do. I do think there are it's become very formulaic, the selection process and the seeding process. That's why you have all these. They're 100 bracket prognosticators out there, and some of them are really good, some of them aren't. But everybody's really close. And so when we can all get 67 out of 68. We can all do that because we give ourselves the automatic qualifiers. And it's really, really easy. You can make a mistake at the very end of the line on the at-larges, but it's really hard to make a mistake. It's really formulaic.
Do you fill out a bracket, not for ESPN, just a bracket with somebody else in a pool or something, anything like that?
No, I don't have enough time. I mean, I do the one at ESPN, and we basically do it while we're on the air. So there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. It's mostly just and we'll probably do better that way. If you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, this game's played at noon, and this team had to travel, and here are the officials and all that stuff, you're not going to do any better. Football. It's always made me laugh that, and I'm a huge football fan. I really enjoy it. I don't know all that much about it relative to basketball, but when in college football for all these years, they told us they knew who the best teams were. They could pick the final two, and then it went to 4. And then we're going, now there's a 12-team playoff, which they told us could never happen. It's just not possible in college football. You can do it in Division II, but you can't do it anywhere else. Not possible. And this year, 2 teams that would not have made it in the prior formats played in the national championship game. Ohio State and Notre Dame would not have made it in the prior formats. So, we don't know. And that's one of the beauties of it. We don't know in any of these things. Nobody knew who was going to win the damn Super Bowl this year. I mean, who could predict that? You can't predict it. And I don't know. It moves the needle when we try to, but that's what's the fun part. That's one of the fun parts about sports is we don't really know.
Okay, before we let you go, it's time for us to play Yes, No Way, or Maybe with Jay Bilas, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done the right way. Go in there and say you listened to this podcast or watched it, and you can get free French fries with your order. So there you go. Number 1 on Yes, No Way, or Maybe, you will bet the over on I've set the line on how many teams the SEC gets in at 11.5. Okay, I don't think they're going to. I would bet the under because I think there's a lot of teams that are going to knock each other off. Would you bet the over?
I would, but not above 12, because I think human nature comes into it, and when you see a number of teams at the end of the line in the SEC that are going to have a losing conference record, that's a big mental hurdle to overcome. But the committee they dig down and do a deep dive and all these different things, and the surgical tools they use to analyze all this. But at the end of the day, the number of losses is affecting. And it was a long time ago, but I remember Georgia got into the NCAA field with a near 500 record overall. But they had played a killer schedule and got into the field. And that was one of the first times when you were going, okay, if you play a tougher schedule and do fairly well against it, you got a better chance. But I think 12 is probably the number. I don't put 13 out of the question, but I think it's more likely to be 12.
Okay, number 2 on Yes, No Way, or Maybe, Carolina barbecue beats Texas barbecue.
No way. Yeah, I'm a Texas barbecue. I grew up in Los Angeles, so to me, a barbecue was hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill by the pool. When I went to Duke, I found out it was a roasted pig in a U-Haul. But yeah, I prefer Texas barbecue.
Okay, and finally on Yes, No Way, or Maybe, you can't believe you didn't get more traction for your appearance in I Come in Peace.
I got plenty of traction. Yeah, no way. I got plenty of traction. That was an Academy Award worthy performance. And the only downside was my death scene meant that there wouldn't be a sequel. And there could be a Star Wars type prequel, but no, there's no sequel for it.
Jay, you're the best, man. I appreciate you being on the show so much. And it's a real pleasure to talk to you, to the smartest man in basketball. We'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break. Hey, let's talk about something that's been a real game changer for many people, including me. BMI TeleMed is one of our sponsors. They're the weight loss specialists and can help you tackle that stubborn belly fat. The kind that usually creeps up once you hit your 40s. Bob Parado and Charlie Gonzalez, 2 UF-trained pharmacists, work with their medical director to prescribe and deliver the same meds that helped me lose 50 pounds. Yep, 50 pounds. That belly fat, it's not just about looks. It's unhealthy and makes you feel sluggish. So now's the time to do something about it before spring and summer roll around. If you're anywhere in Florida, BMI TeleMed, simple online telehealth platform makes it easy. Your weight loss meds get delivered right to your door fast. From my experience, you feel full sooner, eat less, but can keep enjoying the foods that you love, just in smaller portions. Plus, it helps with blood sugar and cravings. Do yourself a favor, head to bmitelemed.com to set up a free private consultation. No obligations, no contracts. These Gators know their stuff. You'll look better, feel better, and be healthier. Visit bmitelemed.com today. Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging. Appreciate Joe. As I said earlier, gave us tickets to the Florida opener, and I'm looking forward to going there on Valentine's Day with my beautiful wife. And also, we're coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Appreciate everybody who listens. Appreciate everybody who watches. Appreciate all of our great guests that we have as we go through life. It's been great. We're able to shift from football to basketball pretty easily because I shift from football to basketball very easily. I mean, I really I know. I remember a couple of years ago, I'm watching the basketball. Oh, Florida was playing FSU or somebody in basketball, and I'm like, I'm not ready for this yet. I'm not ready to get invested in basketball because to me, you get invested in the sport when you start paying attention to everything about it. Like you look at the rankings, you look at the net, you look at the RPI, whatever it ends up being, all that. So, it takes me a little bit of watching basketball to get into it. But boy, I am full blown into it right now and watching games that you would never think I would watch. So I am into it very much. And I know somebody else who's probably into it, my friend Ken Hesser, because we're going to get to Hesser and Kipke's three things. Of course, Hesser and Kipke you can reach at 352-339-9920 or at www.hklawfl.com for all your family law and workers' compensation needs. They are the people to call, and they are good friends of ours. And we, of course, featured Ken in our Mayhem moment last week. That was pretty funny, or earlier this week. Let's get to number one, and that is you hate to see these kind of stories, and you really hate it when you've always been saying, I really like him. When I interviewed him a couple of times, he was really good. I really like him as a player. I root for him all the time. And then you see that Kadarius Toney gets arrested for strangulation, and I think he stole the girl's cell phone too. At least these are the allegations. Stole her cell phone, and there were marks around her neck. So look, I don't know what's going to happen to him, but come on, buddy. You're better than that. You're better than that, man. I know you. Well, I don't really know you, but anyway, that was the news coming out, and it actually was in Georgia somewhere. Can't remember where, but it was in Georgia somewhere. So stay out of Georgia, man. Come back down to Gainesville. We'll take care of you here, okay? But I hope that if he did nothing, he gets exonerated. I hope if he did all the things they're saying, he gets punished. That's the way it works, man. But at the same time, I'm not giving up on the guy yet. All right, let's go to number two on our Hesser and Kipke three things, and that is, it's been there's been a lot of news in baseball. Of course, a lot of news in the NBA too, with all the trades they're going. I can't keep track of who's going where now. I just saw the Kings signed Fultz, who was the first former number one pick, which I never got at all. Anyway, but the latest news in baseball, Alex Bregman to the Red Sox. Now, again, I'm in one of those conflicted things. I like the Red Sox a lot. I've said it a million times. They're my American League team. They're the team I root for in the American League. If they're playing the Braves, I root for the Braves. I make that clear. And I don't like Alex Bregman for the obvious reasons. LSU, Houston Astros, cheating Astros. So now I got to root for him, though, because we just gave him, or I don't want to say we. I can't say we with the Red Sox. I can say we with the Braves, but I can't say we with the Red Sox. But the Red Sox gave him like $40 million a year. Nice. I think he's got 3 years on the contract, and then there are options and stuff. So he got $5 million signing bonus, and $35 million is his salary. I should have played baseball. I did play baseball, though, to be honest with you. I played a lot. I played right up until, I guess up until like my first year of high school. I just wasn't that good. I didn't have that eyesight. You know, I've always believed that the best eyesight in the world are Major League Baseball players. That you've got to see the spin on the ball, and you've got to have that eyesight. I don't have great eyesight. I have glasses, to see, but I don't think I could see the ball very good. Anyway, and I didn't have a great arm. Although I did love to play. I loved to play baseball, but I wasn't any good. But I wish I'd been good, and then I would have made a ton of money. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I did want to mention, and I will mention it later because it's on TV, but so on my Swamp Games of the weekend, it'll be on there. But did want to mention gymnastics coming back home. They were on the road the last 2 weeks. I know they'll get a huge crowd. Auburn's a very good team. They're ranked, I think, 12th in the country. And look, Florida, think about this. Florida's only got 3 more home meets. And if you're a gymnastics fan, you only got 3 more chances to go watch this team in the O-Dome. So take advantage of it, because believe me, these guys are really good. They had a bad meet. They had a bad beam last week. We know that. But I guarantee you they won't have a bad one this week, because they'll get that solved. And this is when you start the peaking process, in my opinion. And I'm sure Jenny Rowland will go, what are you talking about? But to me, you kind of just get through all those early meets, and then you kind of get to this point. You got a lot of them at home, and just, I think you go to Oklahoma too. So just start peaking. And then when you want to peak, obviously, is at the NCAA tournament. And if you're peaking then, you're probably going to be pretty good. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. We appreciate them. Let's move along to our BMI TeleMed. Our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Weekend, or Smart Move of the Week. BMI TeleMed, your weight loss specialists, achieve and maintain. I'm going to be achieving and maintaining starting early March. I've got an appointment, and we're going to get me down another 20 pounds. That's my goal. But we appreciate our sponsors, BMI TeleMed. And let's get to our Smart Move of the Weekend. To me, it was Florida listening to their coach, because at halftime of that game Saturday night, they were at -10 on rebounds. And that's not good. That's not Florida. That's not the team we've grown to love. And at the end of the game, they were -1. So that means they were +9 in the second half. That was the focus in the locker room at halftime. Todd Golden told the guys, he goes, guys, we're getting good shots. They'll start going in. I go, I know you guys. They're going to go in. You're playing pretty good defense. I got no problem with the way you're playing defense. But you got to get more rebounds. You've got to hit the boards. And next thing you know, Walter Clayton's in there for getting a board. And that's it's a smart move, but it's also the fact that you're able to deliver it and your players accept what you're saying. That's why it is a BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week, and we appreciate BMI TeleMed. All right, let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks, our last one before we have a pull on Monday, okay? I think I may have said we're going to do it today. We're going to do it Monday. I wanted to give you one more chance. A lot of guys missed last week. But anyway, so we're going to give you 2 two things on the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks, and you only have to get one right. We want to get as many people qualified as we can. Then Monday we'll have a glorious pull. Maybe we'll get Spurrier to pull the number Monday. How about that? Okay. These are easy questions. No, they're not easy questions. They are simple questions, but they're hard. Number one, a Toyota wins the Daytona 500. Okay. I don't know who's in the Toyota. I know the pole sitter is Chase Briscoe. I had to look his name up. But for you gearheads, it's pretty. I got a good question for you there. A Toyota wins the Daytona 500, and secondly, I'm giving you Auburn at Alabama instead of giving you the Florida game. I'm giving you something that is more interesting, to be honest with you. Auburn, Alabama. We'll talk about it in a minute, but it's going to be epic. I can't wait to watch it. But those are your two. You only got to get one right, and then you'll be qualified for our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. Again, Toyota wins the 500. Auburn at Alabama. Those are the two. Just email your answers to patrickdooley54@gmail.com, and I'll go over them this weekend after the. Well, I got to wait till after the 500. So Sunday night I'll go over them, and we'll get everybody lined up, and we'll get all their names down, and then we'll maybe get Coach Spurrier, as I said, to pick them Monday. Okay, let us move along to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. Sometimes I have a hard time reading here. Okay, our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week, where I am headed when I get done today. I'm going to Gallo Car Wash. Somehow I got pollen all over my car. I know it's February. It's not even late February. There's pollen all over my car. Anyway, our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. I had to look this up because I was curious. Who is the spongiest player in college basketball? Who's the guy who's going to get all the steals, all the turnovers? You probably never heard of him. And I don't know if he'll be at the NCAA tournament either, but his name is Hayden Gray, and he is playing for Cal San Diego. He's got 82 steals already this year. He leads the nation. And he is our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week, the spongiest of them all. Maybe SpongeBob should be the Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week one day. But hey, we appreciate Gallo very much. And as I said, heading over there in just a little bit to get mine cleaned up. All right, let us move along to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. He's getting a lot of attention, but I don't mind giving him even more. Not Adam, but Adam does get a lot of attention. I will say that. He's such a good dude, man. But our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week is Tommy Houck. What a performance. So close to a triple-double. 16 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. Come on, man. I mean, that's like Magic Johnson stats when he was playing with the Lakers. I mean, that's crazy to have that kind of a day. And the thing about him is he's become my favorite player on the team. Now, I said Denzel Aberdeen's the story of the team, but I think Tommy is going to be my player of the year at the end of the year. But no, Walter Clayton maybe. But anyway, he is our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And we appreciate Adam and certainly appreciate Tommy Houck. I can tell you that. I love watching that guy play basketball. And that's the thing about him, watching him play, that's what he's doing, is just playing basketball. Nothing else. He's not like distracted by things. He's just playing basketball, man. It's cool. It's cool to watch. All right, it is time for This, That, and the Other. I know you've been waiting for it. We do it every Thursday. It is brought to you by Ballyhoo Grill. Appreciate them coming back on so much. Brooke and Tommy over there. Appreciate them. And also brought to you by Dar Shakow Insurance. Always love Dar Shakow Insurance. And by Ironwood Golf Course. So we will play This, That, and the Other. And this is that Tennessee and Kentucky played last week, right? Tuesday it was. So we had this discussion on the air about who I would root for. And I go, well, I'll root for Tennessee. And then Jeff explained to me, no, you root for Kentucky because it helps Florida more in the SEC standings. And I'm like, well, I'm not even thinking about winning the SEC. And this goes on for a while, and you can tell it's just riveting conversation and on the air too. But that is that I said, you know what? I should root for Tennessee or Kentucky to win because that'll help Florida more. Okay, I'll root for Kentucky. But when the game started and I got home to watch it, I was like, nah, I can't do that. I can't root for them. I'm sorry. I just can't. It didn't work. That is the other. The other is no matter what, no matter why, I'm always rooting against Kentucky. I can't think of a scenario where I'm not. Now, I not saying I will buy a T-shirt for whoever knocks them out. That was totally a Calipari thing. Although that is where the whole thing started, me getting a lot of T-shirts. If you remember, I got a Notre Dame T-shirt when they knocked Tennessee out of the baseball regional. I still do that every once in a while. I'll get football shirts for games. Because it's one of those things where I go, this could be a shirt game. If they win, I'm buying a shirt. So sometimes I get a lot of shirts. I'll tell you a quick story. One time, NC State beat FSU on a Thursday night, and so I ordered a NC State T-shirt. Got it right away. I think I got it before we left for Nashville. We get to Nashville. I go to put it on. It's like a schmedium, And again, I was even bigger then, but it was not even. It would have looked like Will Ferrell on the cowbell skit if I going out there. It was not good. However, my Tim Andrew, Robbie's brother, was with us on the trip, and I said, it'll fit you. It'll be great. So he put it on, fit great, and he's a lot more slender. And he wore it and went downtown. We're having one. Tim Andrew never paid for a beer that night because every Gator fan, they were all over the place getting ready for the Vandy game, and everyone saw them goes, I love your team, man. I love your guys. How 5-5, Wolfpack, man, we love them. Because they beat FSU. That's my story. Anyway, all right, that's this, that, and the other, brought to you by Ironwood, by Ballyhoo, and of course by our good friends at Dart Shack Out Insurance. All right, let us get to our swamp games of the weekend. And my daughter is she should get like a license plate that says swamp because she goes there for all the big games. She was there for the Super Bowl. She was there for the game Saturday. She was there for the game Tuesday. So she goes to that place a lot, and there's a reason. It's a great place to go watch games. And we'll start off on our swamp games of the weekend. Sunday, 2:30 CBS is the Daytona 500. Now I know there's talk of rain. I don't know if there's going to be rain or not, but if there is, you may have to wait around. That is the biggest negative about covering that was always the traffic, one, but the two would be weather or accidents. Remember that time? It was a night one when the guy ran into the truck that was cleaning things up. Oh man, that was terrible. Anyway, so that'll be Sunday. It's supposed to start at 2:30. The Daytona 500, the Super Bowl of NASCAR. Now, for those of you wondering, Saturday is the Alabama-Auburn game, which everybody's excited about. 4:00 on ESPN. Game day will be there. Should be a lot of fun. I am so looking forward to that game. To me, it's appointment television. Some of you may not care. You only want to watch the Gators, and I understand. But I love sports. And also, I have to talk about sports a lot. So I will be there with bells on watching that game. Mississippi State Ole Miss also is a 6:00 game on ESPN2. I don't know that. I don't think either one of those teams is on the bubble. I think they're both in. But they both need a win, and that's going to be an important one. And plus, it's a big rivalry game. And then, of course, Florida, South Carolina is at 8:30 on SEC Network. And it's not – look, this is what the world is now. It's what TV wants, not what you want. You're saying, I don't want an 8:30 game. Or maybe you do. Maybe you want to explore Gainesville and then go to an 8:30 game, but you're going to get home by 11 o'clock. And for some people, old people like me, it's kind of rough, but we're still going to go. Anyway, that's what time the game is, 8:30. And if you stay home, it's on the SEC Network. Baseball, all three games this weekend are on the Plus, ESPN Plus. So you got to have that if you want to watch it or go out to it, which I'm going to do. 6:30, 4, and 2, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday games. And they are, like I said, all on the Plus. I think the softball games are on the Plus as well. But I'm not going to give you a schedule because schedules can change and everything. But anyway, and they changed on us the other day. In fact, Friday's game was going to be a 4:00 game. So, or was that last week? Maybe no, it was this week, and they changed it at the last minute, moved it back, and we'd already made plans, so we're not doing a Friday radio show. It's okay. I don't mind getting off Friday. Anyway, I did want to also mention the gymnastics meet is at 8:15, and it's a home meet again. You guys are going to, hey, look, they're going to keep you up late this weekend. But again, it's because of TV. You know, Florida doesn't want to have it at 8:15. They want to have it the usual time, 6:45, whatever they say it is. But 8:15, they're going against number 12 Auburn. That should be a great meet. Go out there. Look, I mentioned this to the quarterback club. This is the most wonderful time of the year, in my opinion, because you've got, especially when basketball's good, you've got a great basketball team playing an unbelievable schedule, and it's just so much fun to watch. You've got even the women's basketball. I mean, they've still got a chance to do some things. So, but you've got that. Okay, that doesn't do it for you. Gymnastics was ranked number 2. I don't know where they ended up dropping to after that meet, but they're one of the best teams in the country. And they have 3 meets left. You're just starting baseball season. You've got so many games, opportunities to go to see baseball. Softball. I think the Gator Invitational is next week, which is a great walk if you want to just walk around the golf course and watch great golfers. Or you could just come follow me. That would not be the great golfers part. Look, my point is there is so much going on in this town this time of the year, and that's why I love it. Look, I love football, and I love football season, but this is a fun time of year. I'm an everything guy. I like everything, so a little bit of everything. You never know what you're going to get. All right, that's going to do it for another Dooley Noted podcast brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate our guest, Jay Bilas. Appreciate him so much. And, of course, Zach for doing a wonderful job as he always does. We'll be back Monday with Coach Spurrier if he's not mad at me for turning him down for golf today. I don't think he will be. Anyway, go have fun this weekend. There is so much going on. Don't tell me nothing happens in Gainesville. Okay? Stuff happens in Gainesville. You just got to be into sports. That's all. Until next time, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.